Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I am discussing Soul, directed by Pete Docter. Oh my god, what an absolutely brilliant movie. I am forever in awe of Pixar. Pete Docter has directed some of the best Pixar films, including also Monsters, Inc., Up, and Inside Out. And wow, this movie completely blew me away. The concept is so utterly fascinating. And they always top themselves, Pixar. I'm always going in knowing it's going to be amazing, and then it just blows away my expectations all the more. And this one is no exception. Oh my god, I can't. I could just imagine them coming up with the concept for this movie and just everything that they thought about in terms of the world and the reality of the great before. And it was written by Pete Docter, Mike Jones, and Kemp Powers. So I could just imagine all those endless conversations about living life and finding your spark. Wow. So beautiful. That's the beauty of Pixar. Oh my god, I love it so much. It's just such a beautiful thing that really truly connects us. What a phenomenal, phenomenal film. And our protagonist is Joe Gardner, voiced by Jamie Foxx, a middle school teacher living in New York City. So, even the very beginning I found interesting with the opening of the Disney title screen of, the castle, and then the usual When You Wish Upon a Star, but then you hear it being played poorly by the middle school band, so that's great too. And then just his face, the first shot of him in the film, of his just kind of cringing, like, okay, let's try to do this, everyone. And oh my gosh, wow. And then just when he's kind of struggling, then he's at the high point in his life when he has that chance to perform with Dorothy Williams. And it's just, he goes from just kind of feeling like it's all pointless and everything, and then now he's got this shot for this gig, and it's so exciting. And he's just kind of, the whole time as he's whizzing through everything in New York City, so of the, like, all of these things of just barely almost, missing like the banana peels, the tacks, the things with the bricks, and then like he just misses that and it comes crashing down. All of these near-death experiences that he didn't even realize, and then he just falls down that manhole. So then, as I talked about last week, the inciting incident in this movie is when he falls down that manhole and going to the great, the afterlife, thinking he's died, but he's in a coma. So this really deals with some truly heavy existential things for a kids movie, but again, I don't expect anything less from Pixar, with how universal the storytelling is and how it's for all of us as human beings, that we can all learn something from these movies. And wow, this one completely blew me away, as I said, but wow. So again, I love the concept of the great before and those mentors, Jerry, they're all Jerry, and the little souls like that will become human beings. They're so adorable, all the little souls. It's like, okay, you go to be aloof, you'll be the really happy ones, like all that stuff, like kind of creating their personalities. You'll be the really excited ones, and then when they do the orientation, like that's so funny. And so then, of course, the classic odd couple dynamic when we meet 22, voiced by Tina Fey, who is just this very much cynical soul that doesn't see the point in life at all, and has kind of put all of her mentors through the ringer. And she's had all the great mentors in life, Mother Teresa, all of these people. It's so funny, Muhammad Ali. So it's just like all the great thinkers and these people that had such a huge impact in life, and Abraham Lincoln. So that's really interesting too. So wow, what a beautiful world the great before. And again, what a brilliant idea. Oh my gosh, that's what I love about I love so much about Pixar, but just these really inventive concepts they come up with. Phenomenal. Wow, my goodness. And again, I always just gush so much, but I can't help it. It's just, it blows me away. And So I just think it's so fascinating. So this idea of when they find all of their little talents and interests and of course their spark, then they get their earth sticker and they're able to go to earth to start their life. So that's so fascinating. So then we have that whole thing with Joe, of course, wanting to go back to his life just when his life was about to start because he was going to have that opportunity to perform with them. And then with 22 saying how, she's been through all this and she doesn't care about wanting to actually live life. And then they make a deal that if she can get that one little extra sparks, then it can become an Earth sticker so he can go back to Earth. And so then I love that whole thing with the lost souls too. That was so honestly like taking a really heavy concept and making it just this personified and interesting way of expressing it, that people with their anxieties and when they're too caught up in it and they become a lost soul. And so then those people that come along to help them out, that's really interesting too. Those, what's that guy, the moon wind guy, the one he's just spinning in real life, spinning his sign. So it really is so fascinating when he's in the groove, which we see from Joe early on when he's playing the piano. All the piano playing is beautiful. Again, another Pixar movie with all this beautiful music because I also discussed Coco earlier this year, and so because that was the winner of my poll. So, very similar with the beauty of music and how it can transport you. So I love that. It's just absolutely beautiful. So it's really cool how they help the lost souls back into their bodies. So that accountant guy, when he's like, what am I doing with my life? And then just destroying everything. That's what's so funny. I do love also the humor in this movie is just fantastic. Like when 22 says, oh, I've been messing with these guys for years, like with the Knicks, the New York Knicks. That was so funny. Just all those little things that just definitely made me laugh. Too funny. And so then it's really interesting when he goes back into his body and they're like, no, you can't rush it. And then he's the cat, Mr. Mittens, and 22 is now in his body. So I found that interesting that we weren't really in the great before for too long. Then we're back in the real world now. So now he has his body, but he needs to get back into his own body. So now 22 is living the world through his eyes. So it's cool that like when she's talking though, and then people hear him speaking. So I found that interesting too. And then the cat, and you just hear like the cat screeching and meowing. I love that there was a cat in this movie, and he's so adorable. The cat, like the therapy cat, how adorable. What's funny is that because just seeing the promotional art for this movie, I thought that cat was his pet. So that was an interesting thing to come to find. And of course, also to mention our villain in the movie, Terry, the accountant. It's like the one soul, like the one missing soul, and Terry just goes crazy. That's too funny, the soul counter, and going through all of the files of all the souls. Talk about meticulous and a bit neurotic, Terry. So I like also these gender neutral names too for the souls. That's, makes a lot of sense too. And how, like with 22, and it's all these different numbers, endless souls. Oh, the little baby souls, like, are so adorable. My goodness. Wow. So then back in New York City, and Joe wants to get his body back, of course. So going through all of those things throughout the movie of 22 kind of getting used to walking and then like saying, oh, hungry. So then she tries pizza for the first time. And that's interesting too because as a soul, they can't taste or smell, but then now she's experiencing pizza for the first time. And so all those little moments where she's experiencing something, just those true joys and pleasures from life, and he is seeing her in his own body experiencing those pleasures. So it's allowing him to see it with his own eyes that, oh, look, just enjoying the simple things in life. So that's so beautiful too. So then, the part when he accidentally shaves his head, like, oh, goodness. And I loved the whole thing with the student coming by saying, music is dumb, I'm going to quit. But then when she plays the trombone, and since 22 has had all these great philosophers and people trying to teach her about the ways of life, then she has all of this really unique perspective. And so then she's saying, yeah, well, what's the point of anything? You're right, it's dumb. And then she's amazed that when after the girl plays and then she enjoyed it and she's saying, no, well, I guess I should keep playing. And then she's saying, oh wow, so she has that spark, and what is it that gives her that spark? And he's saying, oh well, it's just because she loves music and she's good at it. So It's just those things that we can take for granted sometimes, of course, for sure. So one of those things where, again, just stop and enjoy the simple pleasures in life. So I loved that whole scene at the barber shop with the barber then saying, well, I was supposed to be a vet, but that didn't work out. And then 22 saying how, oh, so you didn't get to live your purpose. Does that make you sad? And he's saying, no, I love being a barber. So that's kind of first the hint of, well, that's not necessarily his purpose. And it doesn't really matter if you're not, if you don't know your purpose, or if you thought you had a different purpose, but then discovered a new purpose in your life. Oh my goodness. And I feel like I'm just rambling about it, but the depth that this movie gets into with just those, again, how Pixar can take these really beautiful, intricate, complex ideas and then really just kind of simplify it, but in a realistic and yet still brilliant way that makes it feel so simple, where okay, so now it's like, oh, I'm in the chair, and then it's like, oh, can I have a lollipop? Just like small things like that. She's just enjoying the lollipop, and she's enjoying really hearing about his life story. And then when he says, well, you never asked, so again, like with that. And there are moments when then Joe as the cat sitting and watching and listening and kind of being like, and then like when they're walking, and then when she rips his pants, and then they got to get those tailored with the mom, and the mom earlier in the film saying how you can't live off of dreams, it's not going to pay your rent, or like put food on the table. And I loved also too when Joe became her mentor, became 22's mentor, that he just pretends to be that doctor guy and seeing his life, and then when Joe was able to see his own life, and then seeing him sitting by himself eating and sitting in front of the TV and playing the piano, and then him saying, oh no, like my life has amounted to nothing, and he just feels kind of worthless in that moment though. But then he thinks that with this big break of his, that this is going to turn his life around, because he just wants to be a phenomenal jazz pianist and he has the talent, and it's just a wonderful thing. And then how really it started when he was a boy and his father took him to see that very place that he is going to be performing at with Dorothy Williams. So I love that too, like with the connection with his father. So then when he goes back to the mother, and then she's saying, again, like kind of giving him a hard time about it. But then when he tells 22 to say all of that stuff about, you never really believed in me and whatever and all that stuff, and like, why can't I live out my dream? And then he's saying, I don't want to be like, if I died today, I don't want to regret not having tried this and given my chance to be what I want to be and live out my purpose. And that's such a moving, beautiful scene when she hugs him, and oh my goodness, and like fixes the suit. Then it's really sweet. So it's like she's tough on him, but it's just, of course, out of love and wanting what's best for him and trying to make him realize that it's not going to be this one thing that's going to like make or break you as well. So then when that moonwind guy is gonna switch them back, but then 22 saying, no, I don't want to like go back. I want to figure out why by spark, and I can only do it if I'm living. And again, there's all those moments like earlier too when she was just lying down on the thing with the that, what's it called, that gate, that thing on the grounds, whatever, and at the subway listening to the guy perform, and she puts the bagel, like half a bagel, and so beautiful when she just sees the little girl with the father. That's so sweet. And seeing the beauty of the leaves, and she takes that little petal. Oh, it's so beautiful. Again, those things where we kind of can take it for granted, but just stop at appreciating the beauties in life, that this is living, that this is what it's all about. So then it's interesting with Joe, then when he realizes that, oh, it's not about like that whole thing with the last thing to get you an earth sticker, it's not about finding your purpose. Like when Jerry explains to him, it's like, oh no, that's so silly, of course that's what you would think, but that it's about the spark, just those things in life that make life worth living. And it's not always these great big career things, like, oh wow. So, I got choked up watching this movie, of course, like at multiple times, but especially when afterwards, when Joe goes back into his body, and then poor 22 is just kind of then becomes a lost soul. That was so devastating, though. And when he had performed though, and he was great at it, but then when afterwards he's saying, oh, so what happens now? And she says, well, we come back and we do it again. And then he says, well, I thought it would just feel different. And then I love the whole allegory she gives, the whole metaphor about the fish and saying, where is the ocean? And then the other fish says, what are you talking about? This is the ocean. It's like, this isn't the ocean. This is water. And like saying, well, this is the point of, if you're going to keep searching for something that's bigger and better, that you're missing the point of life. So it's similar to, well, this is life. You're living life. So that I thought that was so beautiful. And then when he's back at home and he's playing the piano, he takes all the stuff in his pocket that 22 had just kind of been marveling at throughout the day, with the pizza and the bagel and the lollipop and the spool of thread, with the mother fixing the suit and the pedal, of course. He lays them all out and he starts playing, and then he gets back into the zone. And so that was so devastating too, with 22 then being a lost soul and having all of these, when he just goes, like when she's like this whole dark being now as this lost soul, and with him then trying to get through to her, and he has the pedal. That was so touching and beautiful. And then all of the past mentors saying, you'll never figure it out, you're not good enough, and like all of these voices in her head, again like illustrating this heavy concept of people being lost, and like when they're stuck in that realm, that way of thinking. That's like a really deep thing too, that they just captured so interestingly. Like, wow, incredible, my goodness. And when like he sees himself then as the mentor yelling at her, it's like when he had said earlier, oh, it's just regular old living, 22, and he was kind of blaming her, saying the only reason you found the spark was because of B, you enjoyed music because it's things that I enjoy. And so we don't, like, that's what's interesting too. We didn't really find out what it was, and that's because it was all of those little things. That's what it was that gave her the spark. Just the spark of appreciating simple beauties that, again, we can just sometimes not stop and enjoy the older we get. So kind of that innocence of a child too. Just the small things that just can make you laugh, make you smile, make you appreciate just, wow, this is so great, this is so exciting. Because for her, that was all new things that she hadn't experienced, since that was technically her living life for the first time, since she had always just been in the great before. So then when he takes her to Earth, oh god, that was so beautiful too. The thing with the pedal was so beautiful. And then when she has the Earth sticker and he's thinking, well, I'll take you for as far as I can. And they were all so impressed that he was able to get through to 22. And that was so beautiful too, her going to Earth. And then she's going to be born and she's going to live her life. So wow. So though they went their separate ways, that they both learned from each other. Again, the whole thing of him experiencing, getting to appreciate life through her eyes and seeing himself through her eyes, that was so fascinating and wonderful to me too. So then when he accepts that he's going to go to the afterlife, that was just one of those quiet, kind of still moments, and it was just a little like, oh no. But then I was like, all right, well then if he's going to accept it, I guess at least he learned. But then it's just so lovely when Jerry came and then said, we're going to give you another chance. We were so impressed that you were able to get through 22. And then what are you going to do? And he says, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to enjoy living every moment of life. Ugh, beautiful. I really just breezed through that whole plot, didn't I? But, oh man, I'm just, again, could just gush and gush about the beauty of Pixar's storytelling. The music was so absolutely beautiful. All the piano, all of the jazz, I loved that. And even the credits too, I loved that music playing over the credits, and all the little baby souls playing was so adorable. And then at the end, I loved the dedication. If you watch the movie all the way through the end, it simply said, dedicated to all of the mentors in our lives. That was just so beautiful too. Oh my god. What an absolutely gorgeous, phenomenal, brilliant movie that takes such this beautiful, wonderful thing, this existential thing that is life, that we all may not know our purpose, and that's okay if you never find your purpose. And don't let that one thing kind of be your end all be all, that he put all of this kind of hope and that his whole livelihood on, oh, if I can't play, if I can't do this for the rest of my life, then what's my purpose? And his purpose, like as he comes to find then, is just enjoying everything in life, experiencing life, enjoying all of its ups and downs, enjoying the mundane things, enjoying teaching, and beautiful, enjoying music for the just true joy of playing music, not just to make a living out of it too. So That was so beautiful. That's why the whole thing with the barber was wonderful too. That just him getting to listen to Joe and Joe getting to learn from him. And that Mr. Mittens was so cute. That kid, he's so cute. That when he was able to like the kid and then reunite with the woman, that was so sweet too. Like, oh, the kitty, I loved that. So what a unique thing, and how 22 and Joe really truly learned something about life. And wow, Pixar really outdid themselves, I would say. Absolutely wonderful. I can't, again, I could always say I can't praise Pixar enough with how brilliant they are with their storytelling. And just as always, just we gotta always keep living our lives and just keep finding those sparks of life. As they say, stop and smell the roses. Just really enjoy everything, all of the simple beauties and treasures and wonderful things about life that goes back to really your inner child and everything. So truly wonderful, absolutely beautiful, incredible film. Well done. Shout out to everyone that worked on that film. Amazing. My goodness, absolutely incredible. And with that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. As always, be sure to check out storytellingsaga.com and feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by emailing me at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, hello, my name is Elder Price, and I will be discussing the Book of Mormon. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.